In this chapter, we'll take a look at a case study about diapers, and we'll discover what's needed to create a billion-dollar diaper. So the underlying question of the case study is, how do we transform baby diapers from a commodity product into a differentiated one? The background of the case is the following story. At Kimberly-Clark, they'd been developing diapers for years, disposable diapers. They had made little ones and big ones. They had made pink ones and blue ones, and they had experimented and developed many different types of very absorbent materials. But they reached a point where they had run out of ideas and they weren't sure what to do to expand sales of their disposable diaper products. So they engaged a research firm to help them understand the marketplace. And this is what they discovered. So the company's view, Kimberly-Clark's view of a diaper, was that it was a disposable waist bandage. And you can see in the model here, the baby begins above the legs and ends above the waist because that was the only part of the baby that mattered with respect to a disposable diaper. And you can see at the bottom, the company had invested very heavily in absorbent materials, in the elasticity around the legs and the waist, in the removability of the diaper. So the product was incredibly well engineered, but it turned out that Kimberly-Clark didn't have such a great understanding of parents or of the babies who were wearing the diapers. The researchers used a technique called ethnographic research. We'll have an entire chapter on ethnographic research because it's such an important research tool. And what the researchers discovered was that not only are diapers, disposable diapers, a disposable waist bandage, but they also have very, very deep symbolic meanings. And the symbolic meanings have to do with both what it means to be a child growing up and what it means to be the parent of children. So the technique of ethnographic research involves spending time. This is an immersion activity. So in our design thinking framework, ethnographic research falls into the immersion phase. And so the researchers went and spent time with families, with children, with young children, with their parents. They discussed what it was like to be a parent, what is it like to be a child. They began to understand the influences and forces that were shaping the way children were thinking about their diapers and were also influencing how parents were thinking about their children's diapers. And what they discovered was that children are given constant messages about the importance of growing up. Growing up is a big deal when you're a kid. The grandparents come over after they haven't been around for 3 or 4 months and they say, "Oh, look how big you are. You've grown so much." And children begin to understand that society, their parents, their family, places great value on growth, on maturity, on becoming a big kid. And often when children throw a tantrum, their parents will tell them, well, this isn't how big kids behave. You need to grow up and be like a big kid. So the idea that a child should become a big kid becomes deeply embedded in the child's mind. So how does this relate to diapers? Well, it doesn't take a child very long to discover that babies wear diapers, but big kids don't wear diapers. And if you have children, maybe you've had this experience. I did when my kids were little. Around 2.5, maybe 3 years old, you'll be changing their diaper. You take off the old diaper, you fold it up so that you can throw it away. You turn to the side and you turn back to the baby with the fresh diaper and the baby's gone. The baby stood up and ran away. And they stand far away at the other side of the room. And you say, come here, I need to put your diaper on. And they say, no. And you say, well, why not? And they say, well, diapers are for babies, and I'm not a baby anymore. So it turns out that diapers have very powerful symbolic meaning for children. And getting out of diapers and into underpants is a very important growth milestone in a child's development. And children learn this very quickly. They begin to understand. And so their goal, one of their goals as a growing child, growing to school age, and then seeing themselves as adults, is that they won't be wearing diapers anymore. So diapers are something to get out of. Diapers are something to be done with. Now, for the parents, it turns out that diapers also have a deeply symbolic meaning because one of the parents' main goals is for their children to grow up and be successful. And it turns out that potty training is a very stressful activity for parents. So imagine the following scenes. You're at the park with your kids. You're chatting with the other parents. The kids are off playing. One of the parents comes over to you and says very quietly, "Look, there's little Jimmy over there. Jimmy's 5 years old, still wearing diapers. Oh, what's wrong with Jimmy? 5 years old and he's still in diapers?" As if there's a problem with a 5-year-old wearing diapers. And on the other hand, another parent comes over to you later and says, "Look, there's Susie. She's not even 2 years old, already potty trained. Wow, she's going to Harvard for sure," because potty training is such an important milestone for the parents. And so getting the child out of diapers has important symbolic value, not only for the child, but for the parent. This is what the ethnographic researchers discovered by interacting with children, with families in prolonged sessions of observing their behavior, of talking with them, of discussing life and expectations. And so the ethnographic researchers embedded themselves in these families for half a day at a time, and learned about these values, about these behaviors, about these aspirations of the children and of their parents. And this led them to an understanding that the symbolic value of diapers could be represented in the design of the product. And so the customer's view, the baby's view, I'm a big kid. Well, what did this lead them to? This led them to invent a diaper that isn't put on the old way. It's put on like underpants, because big kids wear underpants. So a diaper for a child who's not quite potty trained that goes on like underpants is a halfway step and a symbolic step forward, both for the parents and for the children. So the company's view, disposable waste bandage, but the customer's view, a symbol of growing up for the child, a symbol of future success for the parents. And of course, it was the symbolic view that became the basis of this product innovation, because diapers aren't bandages, they're powerful symbols. And so this led to the invention of pull-ups. If you're the parent of young children, you're already familiar with pull-ups, or if you've had children, because they're now a standard part of the parenting repertoire. We all use them at one phase in the lives of our children. But at one time they didn't exist because they hadn't been invented, and they hadn't been invented because ethnographic researchers hadn't discovered the hidden symbolic meanings in diapering. So you can see on the screen there the pull-ups certificate of achievement. Kimberly-Clark understood that this whole developmental process, this symbolic meaning, could be embodied in a whole series of products and services that went along with the diapers, so that a child could get the certificate of, I'm officially a big kid now because I'm wearing pull-ups. So what are the annual sales as a result of this invention, of this discovery by the ethnographers? Well, it's been about $600 million a year. So this is where we get the billion-dollar diaper idea, because of course pull-ups have been on the market for many, many years. So it's actually many, many billions of dollars. A profoundly important discovery in parenting and development, but also a significant discovery from a marketing perspective. The research team that discovered this includes Michael Berry, who we met before in the design thinking case. He was the one who shared with me the story about the Embrace baby warmer. Michael now runs a firm called Quotient Design Research. His former colleagues at Point Forward also were involved in the pull-ups development story. And one of the things that Michael emphasizes in his teaching at Stanford and in the work that he's done with us, we've done quite a number of projects together, is that there are three levels that we need to think about when we're talking about a product or a service. There is the basic use. What does it do? This is the functional level. This is the disposable waist bandage that Kimberly-Clark was thinking about. There's its usability. How well is it designed? Does it work properly? Does it have the proper absorbency? Does it fit right? Is it attractive if it's a product? Is it convenient if it's a service? But the deepest level is the meaning level. And so Michael teaches, and we teach, and we all believe very strongly that this triad of use, usability, and meaning is what we need to be thinking about when we're designing any product or any service or even a business model. So it's very common for us to focus on the use and the usability. This is what the R&D teams at Kimberly-Clark had been doing for years. But it was the ethnographic research that attuned them to the importance of meaning. So as a result of their discoveries through this process of inventing pull-ups, Kimberly-Clark completely changed the way they do research all around the world. And now they do extensive ethnographic research for all of their products. They have research laboratories in Europe, in Asia, and in North America. And all of those laboratories have ethnographic research teams that look at all the various products and all the uses and all the usability, and of course, most importantly, all the meanings behind those various products. That's the story of the billion-dollar diaper at the product or service level. But what about at the level of the marketplace? Well, to address that, I want to introduce another tool to you. It's called the value ladder. And the value ladder attempts to look at a market and the segmentation of a market from the point of view of customers. So this is not a company viewpoint, this is a customer view. And the key insight is that we can visualize the market like a ladder. So there's a basic value proposition, an improved value proposition, differentiated value, and at the highest level, there's transformed value, where we've turned a customer, a basic value customer, into a loyal partner. And of course, the loyal partner becomes our advocate in the marketplace. They sell for us because they've had such a great experience, because they consider themselves to be part of our organization. So they advocate for us willingly, because it's a natural thing to do when you feel that a product or a service has given you such good value. In terms of value provided at the meaning level, Pull-Ups was clearly a transformed value product. And so it elevated Kimberly-Clark in the eyes of customers. And it became a product which was in some ways important to the customer because the product itself and the brand and the concept of the product embodied this important meaning value to them. But as you can imagine, the diaper market is very, very competitive. So in addition to Kimberly-Clark, there's Procter & Gamble, and there's many other companies that would love to sell your family diapers when you need them. And so as it turned out, Pull-Ups found itself in the middle of the market between Pampers at the high end and Loves at the low end. And that turned out to be not such a good place to be. So while the branding value initially was differentiated, gradually that brand value eroded. And so here you can see in this article from 2015 that Kimberly-Clark had to change their product strategy because they had been pushed down on the value ladder. As it says here, industry analysts discovered families were either going upmarket to Pampers or downmarket to Loves, and Kimberly-Clark's Huggies and Pull-Ups were trapped in the middle without a real brand identity. Down to the dangerous place to be in the value ladder. We'll have an entire chapter on the value ladder model to explore it in more detail. And so what did they do? Well, of course, they had to do something. And what they did was they did more ethnographic research, and they discovered that millennial moms had a different approach than their parents. And so they developed a better mobile presence, and they developed a potty training curriculum that could be watched on a mobile phone, for example, in an attempt to re-differentiate a product which 20 years before had been a highly, highly differentiated product with great brand value. But that brand value had eroded as the marketplace had evolved. The essence of this story is that ethnographic research led to a fabulous set of discoveries, which led to a fabulously successful product, the billion-dollar diaper. But market dynamics continued to evolve as competitors began to understand this new value proposition. Of course, eventually they introduced products that were competing directly with Pull-Ups. Kimberly-Clark lost that differentiation advantage because all the companies in the market had a similar product. And so they had to continue to reinvent the way they approached branding and the way they approached positioning and the way they engaged in marketing. This is the characteristic truth of the marketplace, that it continues to evolve and you have to continue to innovate. And of course, that's why Kimberly-Clark and all the other companies are engaged constantly in this process of ethnographic research to discover how their markets are evolving, to discover how consumer expectations and needs are evolving. And as I mentioned, this is a core element, a core part of the immerse process in design thinking. Immersing ourselves using the ethnographic techniques is a way to gain a very, very deep understanding of customer needs and expectations. And then, of course, we can use the invent and implement phases of design thinking to imagine what sort of products and services might be valuable to those customers, and to prototype and design and build them and then test them so we can discover if our inventions, if our ideas about invention are valid. So I'll close out this chapter with just a quick overview of the benefits or the core value proposition of ethnographic research. We'll use this little symbol, this little guy on the screen, to represent ethnographic research. So you'll see him or her a lot when we do the ethnographic research chapter. So what's outside is the stuff that everyone knows, and what's hidden inside is the stuff that no one knows. This is what we're looking for when we do ethnographic research. The outside stuff, the stuff we all know, is probably boring. It's explicit, it's obvious, everyone knows it, it's out there. But the stuff that no one knows, this is what's cool. It's tacit, it's hidden. And when we discover it through ethnographic research or other immersion techniques that we'll talk about, then we can create highly, highly differentiated products and services that really deliver meaning to the marketplace. Because remember, use, usability, and meaning. And it's when we can deliver meaning at any price, at any level of the value ladder, then we are in fact creating a transformed value experience for the customer, regardless of the price. And we're transforming that customer into the loyal partner, which is, of course, one of our main objectives. Just one final note on Michael Berry's work. Michael has written extensively on design thinking and ethnographic research. He and his writing partner, Sarah Beckman, who teaches at the arch rival school, the University of California at Berkeley across the bay, have written a number of fine articles in the download materials that you'll have associated with this chapter. I'll give you some references and some URLs where you can find those papers if you're interested in reading their works in more detail. They cover a lot of fascinating topics very articulately, and I think you'll find that their thoughts are quite provocative, quite useful, and very, very interesting. Michael and Sarah wrote an award-winning paper about the development of pull-ups and the work that they did for Kimberly-Clark. Now, in the following chapter, we'll take another look at a case study about ethnographic research, in this case in China, and the topic is hot water heaters.